was very interesting, right? He didn't just go make a phone call. He went and attended an event, and he put himself in a place where he knew he'd be noticed. He had a friend, a mutual friend that was at the event that was able to make an introduction. And, you know, and he didn't jump right to, hey, let's start this business together. He started with, you know, just get noticed, then there was some communications, and then they got together and started actually talking about what a business would look like. And then they put it together. And, you know, one of my favorite lines is, you know, he's talking to Grant, and Grant goes, all right, let's see if anybody buys your bullshit, right? And it's just like, that's just the perfect like little opening line from Grant Cardone. I mean, he just says it the way he sees it, and they did. They did exactly what they went out to do. I think this year Cardone Ventures will do well over $250 million in revenue. They started it with $0 out of pocket, they didn't borrow any money. It all started with Brandon standing on stage and explaining what it is he does. So it's pretty incredible. But that intentionality is something that you'll see in Brandon over and over again. Is, you know, if he's going to do something, there's a reason behind it. It ties in with his purpose, and he goes about his life in an intentional fashion. He doesn't just stumble through and wait for something to happen, right? So that was my big take.
I like that.
Let's let Michael go next, because I always push him out to the end and then I feel bad.
Well, I don't feel bad. I did not get a chance to read. I was doing landscaping this weekend, so unfortunately I'm down for the count. So I am just here to kind of absorb some of the knowledge that you guys have gained from the chapter.
Awesome. Well, no shame, bro. No shame. I listened to it twice this week, because we listened to it on Mondays, and then by Wednesday I forget, so we listened to it again on Wednesdays.
So it's super similar. There's on 122, he says, in paragraph 2, he says, business owners streamline their operations, financial results, people, technology, and data to accelerate their success and shore up any hanging chads that could cause the business to lose value or be damaged due to lack of having solid strategy, people, foundation, or structure in place. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to, you know, help people with inefficiencies and to see a way through some of this stuff that's kind of overwhelming. And part of it's technology, part of it is experience, and I mean, we're learning as we go too, you know? So there's almost like an iteration process we're going through with each new client that we bring in. We start learning how they operate.
Onboarding process.
Yeah, the onboarding process.
Setting expectations.
Yeah, it's you know, we're almost, you know, these guys obviously are like doing big things, but we have big targets too for where we're at, and that's kind of what we're trying to aim to do. So it definitely feels like you know, when he talks about positioning himself to meet this guy Grant, you know, and there's stuff that can be taken from that. Like, you don't have to go buy the fancy shoes necessarily, but you can. He had them. Yeah. So you can position yourself, whether it's at a networking event or, you know, just with your follow-up, you can kind of use what he's saying you want to get in front of these people and, you know, at least open a dialogue, have them know you and keep that going. Like with Jennifer, I've made a note to follow up about that VPP, because she invited us to jump into that VPP with them. So why not go and do these things with Shay, wherever they are and whatever they are, and just sit in the room with a bunch of other people who are in the Shay ecosystem. You know, it's more connections, more people that are like probably a higher caliber of contractor than, you know, your average chuck in a truck guy.
Chucking a chuck.
There's stuff that can be learned. It's like surrounding yourself with people that are operating at that higher level is how you get to be like
How you
that.
get to the higher level, right?
You know, like if you had to play one-on-one with Michael Jordan every day, you'd probably get better at basketball.
You definitely get better at basketball.
Yeah.
You might never beat Michael Jordan,
No,
but you would get better. Well, and that was part of the criteria for Brandon, right? So we're talking about a guy who I think at the time was in his 50s. Or, yeah, he's probably
I'm not sure.
in his 50s.
Possible you.
And he
Give me a minute. Okay.
he had a pretty good life going for himself, right? He sold a business for 150 million. He was, you know, his net worth was somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 million or better. But he had a desire to do more with his life, and he wanted to get to $350 million in net worth. So he knew he needed to find somebody who had already achieved that in order for that person to be able to teach him how to do it, right? And it's just, you know, one thing about Brandon that always strikes me is, you know, although he's been extremely successful, he's still very humble in his view of himself, being able to always learn something new and being open to somebody else showing him how they got where they got. And that's hard to do for a lot of us, right? I mean, we kind of live in this world where, oh, we got to always be right. And, you know, if you ever admit you're wrong, then that's somehow a weakness. And it's like, man, it's the exact opposite of weakness. Like, you say, hey, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. I mean, shit, that's a lot of power, right? And as Aaron said, I mean, what we're doing here at South Bay is being blueprinted loosely off of things I've learned from Brandon, right? And we obviously haven't figured it out to the extent that he has, which is why someday we'll be in the room with him so he can show us how to do it, because we do want to make a reality out of that 100 contractors. We want to be able to be impactful to a large number of people, take them from chucks in a truck to a business owner, somebody who's got financial security, takes care of their family, enjoys their lives, has great crews who are also being rewarded. So it's definitely a learning process, but every week we find ourselves with more pluses in our plus column than minuses in our minus column. And you know, the don't give up and the don't quit, man, that's where, you know, that's where we're at right now, right? We're not quitting. We're leaning into it. We're gonna find a way through it, and we will come out the other side better for it. So I appreciate that, you know, everybody's jumped in here. Everybody that works, you know, closely with us, whether it's Scotty or Nathan or Camacho, Vince at V&B. I mean, you know, these guys in the long run are gonna be superstars. They're great people. They got good attitudes, and good things come from good people. So, you know, like Aaron said, man, if you're gonna level up, you got to get around the people that are already there. Like, you should never be the most successful person in your circle, because if you are, that means you're not growing. So.
Yeah. It's intimidating too, to be, and it takes some courage to step into the room with people that, you know, are operating on they're in a different stadium maybe, and it's like, oh shit, you know. But honestly, think about it like this: when you know a lot about something, maybe whatever it may be, doesn't it feel good when someone asks you questions like, hey, how do you do this? Like, people like to talk about themselves. It's a human nature. I don't care who you are. People like to, you know, impart wisdom and knowledge. So by you kind of being that like open-minded student role, you can really like endear yourself to someone who may be more of an expert in the field. They, unless some people are just total dicks and you can't control if they're unhappy in life and they don't want to talk to you, that's going to happen. But for the most part, people want to share, they want to pass on the knowledge, they like being shown that respect of, oh, they're asking me this question, it makes people feel good to relay info. So if you approach it like that, you don't have to worship someone, but if you can have that inquisitive nature, I think that it will be rewarded, and you will start to see how like the big boys do it, and you'll have a seat at that table,
And if you can't get a seat at the table, serve water.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Serve water at the table.
Yeah.
And the most successful people in life are generally happy to share with you what got them there, because they're just natural givers. That's why they were successful in the first place. You run into the occasional arrogant guy, but even the arrogant guy, you can learn something from them too.
How not to be.
Or they like to brag, right? So
Yeah.
they'll tell you things if you're paying attention to what got them to where they are. So there's always an opportunity to learn something, and that's, as long as you always have that mindset, I don't think you're never going to be stopped. Like, you're unstoppable as long as you continue to learn. So.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anyone? Scotty? I know you got to go. So.
Yeah, I found it interesting. In the beginning of the chapter, he's talking about how he, didn't really align with Grant, and he thought it was, like
Cartoon character.
a bunch of wacky stuff he was doing, social media and standing, with jets and blowing money out of cannons. And he was like, I'll never work with a guy like that. And then it leads up to, him going to the conference and aligning with him and finding that he, did, really complement each other and be able to work with it. And, he said there's multiple lessons. One, never be closed-minded. And then the second, always be prepared and do your homework on defining your intention. The more intentional you are, the easier it is to spot your opportunity. And so, it's really just drilling in and finding what that opportunity is and defining what your intentions are. And then, being open to working with people. But also, like he's saying about Grant has, certain walls built up because there's so many people who try to take advantage and ride on his coattails that sometimes he may miss an opportunity. So, you do have to be open, but somewhat guarded, but just not willing to not be so close-minded that you miss everything.
Yeah.
And so, that was a big takeaway for me. And then also just, that his approach to building relationships is very slow and deliberate, but not an effort into horning on someone's business and brand, but rather to tuck in behind them and provide incredible value and momentum through collaboration. And I think, that's something you guys do really well, is just in collaborating and not trying to grab onto somebody else, but saying, hey, let's complement each other.
Yeah.
And, that's huge. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I have taken from that.
I know we are on the right track. And the challenges will be there, and there'll be challenges from now until the day we pass away. But it's the attitude you take in dealing with them, and the people that you get into your circle. They say you are the people, the five people you spend the most amount of time with is basically your composite person, right? And
100%.
that's why, intentionality is so important, right? I mean, if you're going to the bar every day after work, you're just going to be running into the same guys going to the bar every day after work. Like, that's not the environment that's going to bring you to your intention, right? You got to look for the environment that's going to give you access to that environment. And it's hard sometimes to break some of those habits in life, but you got to look around and say, okay, well, what's this environment have to offer me? And if it doesn't offer you progress towards your goals, then you need to change your environment. It's that simple.
Yep.
I got an interesting story. It just clicked in my head.
Yeah.
So last year, I was working for Sean on 1099, right? And for BCK Consulting and Lane. So I had 3 1099 forms and I didn't pay any taxes ahead of time. So I knew I was going to get hit with a bill. And when tax time came, I went down the hall to our tax guy, got my taxes done, and it was like, ugh. And he told me, and it was like a couple $1,000 that I didn't have, and I was just like, it was this dreading feeling of like, oh my God, and it consumed me because I knew about it a little bit beforehand, and I was trying to figure out how to make it work, and it was just like, it fucked me up for a couple weeks, right? So this year, I just had this epiphany. This year I knew I was gonna have some sort of tax bill, got hit with it like night before last, and what's funny about it is it didn't, I just realized the foundation of what we've been talking about every day and being around this office, it was like, well, just another hurdle to hop over, and I got through it last time, and I was able to like logically think through it and not get emotional about it, and then use my reasoning mindset and go, okay, I'm gonna pull the money from this card, I'm gonna put that, and boom, okay, problem solved. And it didn't fuck up even one day of my life. It was like I paid the guy yesterday, and now I know, okay, I just gotta replenish the coffers. But I just had that epiphany of like, wow, that didn't actually mess up my mindset, even though it was more this year than last year. I was like, so this mindset
you're
stuff works.
You're learning and growing there, Aaron.
Yeah.
It does work.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It does work. Even at times that it feels like it's not getting you where you're going, man. I guarantee you that the negative mindset will definitely blow it for you.
Yep.
You got to stay positive every day. Find a way. Be open to it. So I've got a coach, right? And what he's working with me on is to just be open to possibilities, right? Like, don't get so stuck in trying to solve the problem yourself that you don't see an opportunity that's being presented to you, because you're honed in on trying to solve it yourself and work under your own steam. And sometimes that's hard to do, right? We naturally want to be problem solvers and fix things, but if you're focused on the problem, you're just gonna find more problems. So you gotta stay open and think about opportunities. Where can I go? Who can I meet? If you just burrow down in your office and look up at the pit of despair, you're gonna end up dying there. So
True that.
But awesome, guys. Appreciate everybody jumping in, and I can't wait to see you guys again next week. And what is our next chapter?
Part 2, right?
Part 2.
Conversations you need to have with yourself.
Become an expert on yourself. Chapter 10. Oh, this is gonna be fun, guys. All right. Have some tissue ready
All right,
next
guys.
week.
Have a great day. I'll see you soon.
All right,
Bye.
see ya.